Chapter 841. A group of pirates widened their eyes and looked at the divine weapons all over the sky in disbelief. The golden luster dancing in the sky almost blinded their eyes. Buzz, 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 all kinds of weapons spinning in the void made a crisp roar, and immediately under everyone's desperate gaze, the divine weapons all over the sky fell to the ground like a rainstorm. The number was more than tens of thousands. "Humph, your weapon just now was not made of iron, these guys must have magnetism." Kid laughed wildly, and the majestic magnetic force once again erupted from his palm, covering the entire sky, and all the light in the sky was instantly bound and controlled by him. The weapons that were originally falling and stabbing towards the ground all flew into Kid's hands. This ability is not bad. Seeing this, Dustless couldn't help but gently nod. The fruit that can control magnetic force is indeed good. However, the fruit's ability is not bad, but your ability is far from it. Sad and lamentable. Snap. With a snap of his fingers, the peerless weapons controlled by Kid collapsed and turned into countless light powder, and then gradually collapsed and disappeared without a trace. Forget it, there's no need to make it so exaggerated. Dustless, who was going to pull out the wily sword, shook his head resolutely. He wanted to clean up these eyesores in front of him, not destroy the Sabaody archipelago or even the whole world with the wily sword. "Let's start with you, Law." Dazzling light condensed around Law, and Dustless crossed the layers of space and appeared in front of Law in an instant. Seeing this, Law's nervous palm spun rapidly, and a circular transparent space was about to form. Dustless's nightmarish sneer echoed in Law's ears. "In front of me, you still want to use the fruit's ability. You're too slow." With a sneer, his gloomy eyes swept towards Law's chest, and his leg, which was surrounded by light, blasted mercilessly. Bang, bang, bang. Shocked to find that his chest was hit by a fatal blow, Law's face changed in an instant. At the moment of being attacked, his internal organs trembled, and he immediately vomited blood. His body flew out like a cannonball, and the trees up to 100 meters in the distance were broken by the waste. Law's chest had been completely charred and sunken in. Attack together. When the supernovas saw this, they looked at each other and nodded in unison. Since the chance of winning a duel was 0, they could only rely on their numbers to bully the enemy. How boring. In front of absolute strength, numbers are useless. Dustless could not help but shake his head when he saw that this group of people was still unwilling to give up. The difference in strength between them was like heaven and earth. The effect of using a sea of people tactic was next to nothing. So, a sharp cold light splashed out in the void. Immediately after, a huge white slash came whistling over. Its might was incomparably domineering, and it could even slice through space, leaving behind marks that were difficult to erase. What's the use of such a thing? Crude swordsmanship is worlds apart from Hawkeye. Dustless didn't dodge. He just stood there quietly and didn't move. The biting cold slash passed through his body and only tore the ground behind Dustless. As for Dustless himself, he was completely unharmed. "You don't even understand hockey. If you want to attack my body, it's just a story that only happens in fairy tales. Now you have no other way but to wait for death." Law can rely on the particularity of surgeon fruit to attack Dustless's body without using hockey, but unfortunately, he has already been KO'd. "Since you are so belligerent, then lie on the ground for me first." A gust of wind blew, and Zoro's eyeballs were filled with cold shadows. His fingertips glowed brightly, and with a harsh roar, he shot out. Laser. Under Zoro's dull gaze, the flash finally swallowed him completely. It's not that he didn't want to run, but there was no extra time at all. No matter how fast he was, he couldn't be faster than light. Boom, 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 a large fireball soared into the air, and Zoro, who was hit head-on, was severely injured and was thrown out with black smoke all over his body. "Zoro!" Green algae head. Sanji and Luffy saw this scene and rushed over. When they were about 5 meters away from Zoro, a golden afterimage swooped down and blocked the two like a wall. Sorry, this road is blocked. Luffy and Sanji, who were furious, looked at each other and rushed over fearlessly, especially Luffy, whose body has swelled into a large balloon and his fists have become bigger than a human being's. As expected of a hothead. Regardless of whether it's good or bad, once he has decided on something, he won't listen to other people's opinions. His body, limbs, and the whole person instantly turned black. Under the sun, the irresistible edge of steel jumped, and even because of the whole body entering armament hockey, Dustless's body changed from the original one. 7 meters to the current 2 meters. So. Bang. 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 A black afterimage swept out of thin air. Because the speed was too fast, Luffy and Sanji only felt a biting cold hurricane in front of them and immediately spat out blood at the same time. The two of them instantly flew out. They didn't even know who attacked them. Bang, bang, bang. The same was true for several other supernovas who were stunned. They didn't even have time to react before they were brutally suppressed. The ferocious fist that attacked them was no different from steel. It was almost a punch that made them retreat. The supernovas, who were called the worst era by the world, were like babies in front of Dustless, unable to withstand a single blow. Chapter 842. The 11 supernovas fell to the ground in pain, looking at Dustless with fear and awe. Marine Admiral is so terrifying, then how terrifying is the Yonko, for emperors, that the Marines in the second half of the New World are afraid of. Just thinking about the One Piece dream in their hearts is a sign of breaking. Don't be afraid, he is a special existence in the Marine. An admiral can't measure his full strength. Look at it, a real pirate will not be afraid of the enemy and stop chasing his dream. In the depths of the dilapidated auction house, a stooped figure walked out. He had a head full of white hair, wore glasses, and was dressed very casually. His eyes were slightly turbid, and he looked quite sloppy. Moreover, his face was almost no different from a dead tree. Obviously, this person was old. He is at least more than half a century old. It's really a big man, Dustless sighed as he carefully sized up this unattractive old man. Then, he recalled his information and deeds in his mind. One Piece's right arm, a legendary man with the title of Pluto, Sebaz Raleigh. Even so, there is a saying that time is unforgiving. Raleigh, who is more than 50 years old, has passed the golden age of his life. Now he is just a powerful old drunkard. You shouldn't have come out, Raleigh. After staring at Raleigh for a long time, Dustless shook his head and sighed. You should have just hid and enjoyed your old age. Why can't you see through the past of the mortal world? Why do you have to come out and intervene? This is self-destruction. Hearing this, Raleigh just showed a smile. Looking at the supernovas who were crippled and severely injured, his shriveled mouth raised a peaceful and warm smile. These are still young seedlings. They can't be killed by you like this. You mean them? Pointing to the fallen supernovas, Dustless sneered, can't be killed by me. Do you think you're allowed to help them in such a reckless manner? The final result of pulling up seedlings is just the opposite. Raleigh looked directly at Dustless's face, his turbid eyes suddenly became cold, and his firm tone left no room for negotiation. This has nothing to do with pulling up seedlings. It's not fair for an admiral to start with a group of newcomers. Fair? This world has never been fair. Dustless sneered and stared coldly at Nether King Raleigh. It's not fair for them to fight me. In other words, Dustless's tone suddenly changed. His voice was filled with bone-chilling killing intent. Do you think it's only fair that you met me? How dare you put us in the same position? Do you think you're Roger, Raleigh? Raleigh was just silent. The sword that he hadn't used for many years reappeared in his hand, quietly showing his position. These pirates were the most important seedlings. He couldn't watch the great pirate era end. What a pity. Staring at Rayleigh's weathered face that was filled with the traces of time, Dustless suddenly sighed. Between his words, there was deep regret and a long sigh. A pity. His face wrinkled, and Rayleigh asked in confusion, "What do you mean? You don't even understand this." On his cold cheeks, there was a cold smile. "A living legend is about to be destroyed, don't you think it's a pity? Not only that, this living legend may be reduced to a prisoner and become a member of Impel Down. And this legend who is about to fall is King of Hell, Ziliabaz Rayleigh." After that, Dustless shot out with a ray of light, and the golden sword in his hand was compressed in an instant, and it fell from the sky with a heavy blow that could destroy a large mountain. Caw 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 caw. Even if Rayleigh suffered this blow, the ground under his feet collapsed, there were obvious sweat stains on both sides of his forehead, and his hands holding the iron sword were trembling. Compared to the calm and collected Wu Chen, there was an essential difference. "You all leave here quickly, I will contain him." Regardless of the pressure brought by Dustless, Underworld King Rayleigh shouted at the supernovas. Especially when he looked at the straw hat behind Luffy, his eyes flashed with a regretless smile and determination. The supernovas who were killed in seconds used all their strength to stand up. After bowing to Underworld King Rayleigh, they fled in all directions. The feeling that Dustless gave them was too terrifying. He was an invincible existence. Seeing the backs of several people gradually dissipating, Rayleigh breathed a sigh of relief. "Want to run? Don't be naive, it's almost time." Wu Chen was calmer than Rayleigh. With a relaxed and calm expression, he sat firmly on the fishing platform and seemed to have a card up his sleeve. "I came to the Sabaody archipelago completely incognito. No one in the Marine headquarters knows that the Tenryubito in the Sabaody archipelago was attacked by the Straw Hat Luffy, and the Marine will inevitably send an admiral to encircle and suppress them. I don't need to say, you know what this means." Hearing this, Rayleigh's expression suddenly turned cloudy and heavy like a mountain. "In other words, there is still an admiral on the way to the Sabaody archipelago. Do you think that group of kids can escape? So don't be wishful thinking. Among the three admirals, whether it is Akiji, Kizaru, or Akainu, any one of them can easily extinguish the supernovas." Chapter 843. "I'm just the type of person who is traveling incognito, and there are other admirals on the way to the Sabaody archipelago, so don't dream that those kids can escape, it's completely wishful thinking." Because of this sentence, Rayleigh was instantly full of flaws, and his whole body was full of loopholes. This light sentence hit him like a heavy mountain. His breathing began to quicken. "I must find a time to slip away and help them." Rayleigh quickly made a decision in his heart. His purpose was to help Luffy and others get out of danger, not to have a meaningless battle with Dustless. Just as he was about to retreat, a large amount of light condensed behind Underworld King Rayleigh, blocking his retreat. "Get out of my way," Hell King Rayleigh said with a cold expression. He was clearly different from the gentle him from before. His eyes were filled with cold killing intent. "Are you angry? But this is also good, how strong will you be when you go all out? It's really exciting." Facing Rayleigh's scolding, Dustless was not angry, but smiled and said, "Sorry, I'm a Marine, this road is blocked, and the only feasible way to pass is to step on my body." After saying that, the golden cold light that had always been successful rose from the ground and swept straight toward Nether King Rayleigh's rough face. Staring at the cold light, Rayleigh's expression was cold, and the iron sword in his hand also cut through the sky, splashing a white ripple in the void. Boom boom boom. The two swords collided, and the rapid impact spread out, and the surrounding buildings were destroyed. Under this unparalleled absolute impact, all of them turned into a pile of rubble. Clang clang clang, the roar of steel continued, and after each collision, a destructive impact was produced. In just dozens of seconds, the two had fought hundreds of times. This guy. It seems that normal means are useless against him, Hell King Rayleigh said while panting. There was a hint of exhaustion in his tone. Although he was still strong now, it was far from his peak state in the past. Whoosh! His strong and powerful arm swung out, and his silver light flew out, and the sharp edge pulled a long trench on the ground, and the direction was dustless. This kind of naive attack doesn't work on me. At the moment when he was about to touch and tear Dustless apart, the Kusanagi sword in his hand shone brightly, and the golden light swept out, passing through the overbearing silver slash. Poochie! At the moment when the completely opposite light collided, it was only a moment of stalemate, and Rayleigh's slash collapsed and immediately burst like a flower. Whoosh! A gust of cold wind brushed past his shoulder, and Nether King Rayleigh suddenly disappeared, turning into a tornado and rushing away. If you want to compete with me in speed. I have never lost to anyone in this aspect. A large number of photons once again blocked in front of Underworld King Rayleigh. Warm rays of light floated and condensed together. Dustless, who was holding the Sky Cluster Cloud sword, flashed again. Humph! Seeing this, Rayleigh's eyes flashed with killing intent, and his momentum rose rapidly, and even the air around him was blown away. Light speed kick. After flying out of Dustless's foot, he was close to Rayleigh in an instant, and there was no time to dodge. Boom boom boom, the ground suddenly shook. A blazing mushroom cloud of flames rose into the sky. Soon after, ferocious cracks appeared and swallowed the surrounding unscathed ground like a disorderly spider web. In this explosion, a figure that shouldn't have appeared, but it swept out, full-body armament hockey. Looking at Rayleigh, who seemed to be splashed with ink, Dustless nodded secretly, but even so, Rayleigh's arm could still see burn marks. Armament hockey is known as a powerful move that can resist all physical attacks, but invulnerability does not mean invincibility. There is also a premise: once the limit of what one can bear is exceeded, one will also be injured. The same is true for Rayleigh now. Check, Brother Charles, who killed you? Just then, an angry and frightened scream resounded through the sky, attracting the attention of Dustless and Nether King Rayleigh. Looking over, it was Chalmer's sister, Shalulia. Tenryubito. Seeing this, Rayleigh said meaningfully. Hearing this, Dustless glanced at Shalulia indifferently, and immediately retracted his gaze and fell on Rayleigh, who was in armament hockey. Do you want to kidnap her as a hostage to threaten me? Underworld King Rayleigh was silent. Pointing to the fatal wound on Charles, Dustless said indifferently, You seem to be a little old, Rayleigh. The fatal burn wound was obviously caused by a fierce attack such as a beam of light. You killed a Tenryubito. Rayleigh's indifferent face loosened, and he said incredulously. When Dustless killed Charles, he was not present, so he didn't know. Killing a Tenryubito, even a Marine Admiral, will have a disaster. Hearing this, Dustless just sneered with a cold face and said indifferently, You are right, killing a Tenryubito, even a Marine Admiral can't bear it, but, if a Tenryubito killed a Tenryubito, what do you think will happen? Chapter 844. What do you think will happen if Tenryubito kills Tenryubito? This sentence made Rayleigh speechless, his dry lips squirmed, he wanted to refute, but he was surprised to find that he was speechless. The law of this world stipulates that anyone who challenges the authority of Tenryubito will be surrounded and suppressed by Marine Admirals. However, this is only limited to humans. Dustless, as a Tenryubito, is not subject to legal sanctions. It is ineffective against him. Rumble, at this moment, the mini Den Mushi in his trouser pocket suddenly rang and stood up, looking at the lazy Den Mushi. Dustless instantly understood who it was. What's the matter, Borsellino? It was Borsellino who contacted Dustless on the phone. Really, if I knew you were in the Sabaody archipelago, I wouldn't have to bother to go there. I heard that the Tenryubito there was beaten. Did you catch the criminal? Borsellino's words were full of curiosity as he dared to beat Tenryubito. Sorry, you are a step late. That guy Charles is dead. Staring at the dead Tenryubito Charles, Dustless said expressionlessly. What, dead? The lazy tone was instantly restrained, Kizaru asked as if he had seen a ghost. Fighting a celestial dragon is the kind of person who is not afraid of death. Now killing a celestial dragon is definitely not something a human should do. Have you caught the murderer? Don't let him run away. Otherwise, Gorosei, Sengoku, and Tenryubito will not let us go. Kizaru said gloomily. Run? Why should I run? I am the one who sent Charles to heaven. After that, without waiting for Kizaru to talk nonsense, Dustless closed the den mushi and looked up. He was greeted by a more ferocious chop than before, like a storm sweeping toward him. Katon, Great Fire Annihilation. After the lightning-like printing, the boundless sea of fire roared out of Dustless's mouth, reaching a shocking range of 100 meters in diameter. The blazing flame instantly annihilated the ferocious chop. Got it. At this moment, there was a ghastly and strange cold wind behind him. Looking up, he saw a black steel monster rushing toward Dustless at a speed beyond human cognition. The iron sword in his hand was different from before, it turned into a deep black color. Old man. You're already so old, yet you can still play so happily. To be honest, you've really impressed me. Perhaps that's what it means to be old but still young. Looking straight ahead, Dustless didn't even turn his head. His body simply spewed out evil golden light, condensing into a huge skeleton to protect Dustless. Clang! The sharp cold light covered with armament hockey swept across and cut straight to the mysterious skeleton. Kakaka, under the full impact, the skeleton, Rayleigh saw this scene, Ray, showed a happy smile. Since the start of the battle, he had been suppressed by Dustless in all aspects. Even his ability to talk was not as good as Dustless. But after laughing for a while, Underworld King Rayleigh's face suddenly stiffened. Buzzing, chakra erupted again like a spring, and the skeleton full of cracks healed instantly. Not only that, but it also strangely became a lot bigger. A man in his 60s or 70s can still be so young and energetic. He smashed Kansusanu's defense, although it is partial. It's still amazing. Good dance, old man. Turning his head, Dustless calmly looked at Dark King Rayleigh. Staring at Rayleigh's sluggish face, his handsome face twisted like a ghost's in an instant. However, you don't know when to stop. You seem to be a little arrogant, old man. The voice containing monstrous killing intent was like a rolling thunder, and it reached Rayleigh's ears, making his thoughts suddenly stop, and his whole person stood in place sluggishly. Are you done? If you're done messing around, then go to sleep obediently. I don't want to see your face again in the future. His pupil rolled sharply, and his left eye rotated at high speed. The dark eye was instantly swallowed by the 9 tomo, and it was full of indescribable oppression. The piercing killing intent spread out, Rayleigh retreated like a conditioned reflex, staring at Dustless. At this moment, he was particularly ominous, like a monster from the abyss, his whole body was full of evil. Under the gaze of Rinnegan, Pluto's body trembled uncontrollably. Farewell, Dustless glanced at Rayleigh, his left eye rippled, and several shadows floated around Dustless. After a few seconds of silence, Dustless's eyes suddenly widened several times, the shadows around him also condensed into his appearance, and immediately rushed toward Rayleigh. Tomb of Samsara, Border Prison. Rayleigh, who was unaware of what happened, was about to launch an attack. His abdomen, back, limbs, all the places that could be attacked were hit at the same time. How can this happen? Rayleigh looked at Dustless in disbelief, then fell to the ground unwillingly and fainted. Even with the defense of armament hockey, the invisible attack made him seriously injured, and if he didn't deliberately show mercy, he might have been beaten to a pulp on the spot. Rinnegan once again stirred up a ripple, and the shadow that stayed beside Rayleigh slowly disappeared. Chapter 845. Looking at Rayleigh, who fell to the ground, Dustless was unmoved and passed by him. Slow down. Rayleigh, who fainted, opened his eyes and showed his turbid eyes. In an instant, he aged more than 10 years, and his vicissitudes of life gave people a feeling of weakness. Rayleigh was old, and now he was hit by the unexpected tomb of reincarnation, border prison, and it was commendable to continue to have a fresh consciousness. It's over, don't look for your own death. Turning his head and glancing at Rayleigh, Dustless's back gradually dissipated, evolving from a subtle ink dot to disappearing. Boom! A burst of messy footsteps came from a distance, and groups of people ran as if there was an earthquake. Without exception, all of them were Marine soldiers with guns. It's really over. Looking up at the fierce Marine soldiers, Rayleigh was uncharacteristically calm. Instead of being afraid, there was a feeling of clearing the clouds and seeing the blue sky. After hiding for many years, it was time for this kind of street rat to come to an end. The death of the celestial dragon St. Charles undoubtedly increased the turmoil in the Sabaody archipelago. Not only the pirates, but even ordinary civilians fled. Celestial dragon was killed, this is not over. The thought of the stimulated celestial dragon is unpredictable, and it is normal for him to slaughter the city in anger. At this moment, Kizaru lit a cigarette. Although his expression was as wretched as before, his hands trembled slightly. Even with the cover of reading glasses, the haze in Kizaru's eyes was still visible. Beside him, there was a row of pacifists and Sentomaru. What is even more confusing is that Kizaru also stepped on a pacifist under his feet, and the skin on the surface was cut open, revealing various internal machinery. Kuma, give this old man a reasonable explanation. Lowering his voice, no longer the lazy voice of the past, Kizaru was angry, and he could vaguely hear the meaning of anger. The Shichibukai under his feet was actually the prototype of these pacifists, Bartholomew Kuma. When Marlindo heard that Kizaru was going to land on Marihoya to destroy the supernova, Kuma volunteered to fight and indeed hit the supernova with overwhelming strength. However, the government treats you well, but you used your ability to send those pirates flying. As he said this, Kizaru's old face suddenly changed, and his whole body burst out with a cold chill. Even the cigarette in his hand was extinguished, and a terrible momentum exuded from Kizaru's body. Vaguely, he could hear the wailing and howling of ghosts. Killing the Tenryubito is Dustless's responsibility, and it has nothing to do with Kizaru, but the group of supernovas who ran away can't be separated from him. Although he won't be demoted, a punishment is inevitable. Who would have thought that a traitor like you would take advantage of the loophole in the end? Well, after we go back this time, I'll completely transform you into a humanoid machine. This will be the last time you'll be able to move. Kizaru said emotionlessly like steel. You seem to have a problem here, Borsellino. An indifferent voice came, and Dustless came into view. His eyes expanded rapidly. There were a lot of pirates caught, but most of them were small fries with tens of millions of berries, and the supernovas had evaporated. When Dustless said this, Kizaru's face flashed with embarrassment. The supernovas were sent flying by this guy's ability, and only this group of small fries is left. Kizaru said gloomily as he kicked Bartholomew Kuma. It was one thing for the cooked duck to fly away, but what made him speechless was that the instigator was one of his own people. The vicious hungry wolf can't be fed, and the chance of him working with peace of mind is zero. Dustless had expected this. When Kuma joined the world government to establish the Shichibukai, he was forced to do so. Now it's reasonable to help the supernovas. After all, the more chaotic the world is, the more advantageous it is for the Revolutionary Army. Yeah. It's strange, is this old man's eyes dazzled? Kizaru deliberately wiped his glasses and put them back on. After confirming that he didn't recognize the wrong person, he was surprised and said, "I heard that One Piece's right arm, Rayleigh, had appeared in the Sabaody archipelago. I didn't expect it to be true. Not only that, it seems that he has been caught." Kizara's voice was filled with schadenfreude. Following his line of sight, he saw Rayleigh tied up. His face was filled with loneliness. Under the afterglow of the setting sun, the sun was setting in the west. "I didn't expect to meet in such a way, Borsellino." Rayleigh's tone was filled with endless self-mockery. Who would have thought that he would be reduced to a prisoner in the past? Even in his dreams, Rayleigh had never seen him like this. "This is what you get for standing up for those little devils. You have to pay the price for everything you do. The rest of your life will be spent in the dark of Impel Down." Dushless said calmly. "Things have come to an end, and it's difficult for Rayleigh to turn over. The pirates on the island are almost wiped out. It's time to retreat." The corpses on the island leading to the Fishman Island were piled up like mountains. The pirates on the island were almost wiped out, and they were crushed by the exposed strength of pacifism. Chapter 846. One day later on the sea. The blue battleship sailed to the sea. Dustless and Borsellino stood side by side, looking at the distant sea. In a trance, they seemed to be able to see Marin in the depths of the clouds. In the dark, they can see the marine headquarters that was almost destroyed. Sengoku is going to go all out. The Shichibukai seems to be on standby in Marin. It seems that I have to fulfill the original treaty. Dustless said softly. Kizaru heard this and nodded. His rough hand full of dead skin held a newspaper. The content on it was enough to shake the whole world. The general content is that Fire Fist Ace will be publicly executed in the Marine headquarters in half a month. But this is also good, just to pass the boring time. Lying comfortably on the couch, Dustless's face was lazy. He had an agreement with the Gorosei, 5 Elder Stars. Once the Marine headquarters was attacked, he had to take action. To be able to personally send Whitebeard to the Western Paradise, Wuchen expressed that he couldn't wish for anything more. "You Marines will regret it." Rayleigh, who was chained to the mast, said with a hint of worry in his voice. "Once the Whitebeard pirates collapse, the New World, which was once sheltered by Whitebeard, will riot. At that time, the whole world will go berserk and fall into unprecedented chaos." Hearing this, the bored Dustless's mouth squirmed, and he was about to ridicule Rayleigh, but Kizaru attacked ahead of time. "Mr. Rayleigh is really compassionate. As a pirate, you are worried about these problems. So what if all of this happens?" Kizaru glanced absent-mindedly at Rayleigh, and then said frivolously, "Is it because of this that you let Whitebeard go?" What a joke. In the end, Kizaru's voice was full of contempt. Glancing at Hell King Rayleigh as if nothing had happened, Wu Chen's eyes were more or less full of pity. Whitebeard has been in the sea for a lifetime and has accumulated countless crimes. Perhaps in the view of the Marine, killing Whitebeard hastily is already a respect for him. Bear, suddenly standing up from the couch, Dustless walked in front of Tyrant Bear. His deep eyes can penetrate people's inner thoughts. "You didn't send Straw Hat Luffy directly to Impel Down, did you?" "How far we can take him depends entirely on fate," Xiong Xayan replied calmly, appearing unusually calm. "This kind of nonsense can only fool children." Dustless was too lazy to argue. Immediately, an idea flashed through his mind, and he immediately teased, "Straw Hat Luffy is a devil fruit user. What if you throw him into the sea? Then he deserves to drown." "He can only blame his short life," Tyrant Bear said indifferently. "You're already so old, yet you're still so shallow when it comes to lying." Although the Tyrant Bear looked big and sometimes looked silly, it was actually very meticulous and collected information without batting an eyelid. He would never be so rash. "Why don't you let me guess?" There was a strange smile on the corner of his mouth. He stared at the tyrant bear's eyes with glasses, clear and bright, and instantly saw through his mind. If I didn't guess wrong, it should be Red Hair Shanks, right? The news that the Marine headquarters was about to execute Fire Fist swept the world in less than a day. The calm sea was like a meteorite attack, rolling up monstrous waves, and the whole world fell into a frenzy of public opinion. Whether the Marine headquarters collapsed or the Whitebeard pirates entered the end. These two controversial topics have never stopped and have become the after-dinner gossip of people all over the world. Somewhere on an island in the New World. Beckman, I told you not to let him find out when you talk about Ace. In the end, sigh, red-haired Shanks let out a long sigh and rolled his eyes at the innocent Beckman. Now it's impossible to stop Luffy from saving Ace. Although the time he spent with Luffy before was very short, Red Hair Shanks did understand Luffy's temperament, stubborn and one-track minded. Indeed, as Dustless imagined, Luffy did accidentally fall from the sky and landed on the island where the Red Hair Pirates were temporarily stationed in the New World. I'm going to save Ace. Where is he locked up? Don't stop me, Shanks. Luffy showed the determination to go forward. Sure enough, Red Hair Shanks was helpless. Looking at Luffy, he said with powerlessness, although I know it's useless to persuade you, I still want to say, give up, Luffy. That Whitebeard man didn't succeed in breaking the prison before. Although Red Hair Shanks is very optimistic about Luffy, he still can't reach the top. That's not necessarily the case, Shanks. Beckman, the think tank of Red Hair Pirates, said, the Marine headquarters concentrates most of the manpower from all over the world, and other places are certainly not well prepared. Red Hair Shanks nodded, hesitation appeared on his face, and immediately stared at Luffy's eager eyes. He could only shrug his shoulders and promise to help Luffy once. Fire Fist Ace was Roger's son in the past, and Roger's fight with Red Hair was like a rebirth. Without the experience of Roger's pirates, perhaps Red Hair Shanks is just an ordinary member of the masses. Chapter 847. Luffy, you must be careful when you meet that dangerous man in the future. He is more terrifying than you think. Don't be careless. Just be on guard against his godlike enemy. Luffy's face was full of doubt when he heard that. He always felt that his description of Dustless was too terrifying, as if he was a natural enemy. Luffy. Don't be surprised. Some things are far more complicated than you think. Seeing Luffy's suspicious face, Beckman, the second in command of the Akagami, Red Hair, Pirates explained that although the size of the Akagami, Red Hair, Pirates was very small, there were more than a dozen people now. All of this is thanks to Dustless. In the Marine Headquarters Fleet Admiral office, Sengoku's eyes were bloodshot. Since he ordered the public execution of Fire Fist, the world has been in chaos. There are even some places singing the collapse theory of the Marine, and the seas all over the world are in a mess. Is there any news from the Marine fleet monitoring Whitebeard? Sengoku looked up and asked. Akiji and Akainu were sitting on the sofa, and Garp was at a loss. Fire Fist Ace was about to be executed, and he was very sad. Rumble, the den mushi on the table rang without warning. Sengoku was full of energy and was about to ask about the Whitebeard pirates, but the opposite side first sent a message that made his face turn green. Fleet Admiral, we are responsible for monitoring the Whitebeard pirates' fleet. They were all wiped out. A scream of horror came from the other side of the den mushi. Without waiting for Sengoku to ask, the den mushi stopped moving. This is just revenge. Soon, a more violent storm will blow to us. Dustless and Kizaru walked into the Fleet Admiral's office, and the person who spoke was Dustless. I heard that you caught Rayleigh. Sengoku's eyes flashed with bright light, and he immediately asked. Hearing this, Dustless nodded. This kind of thing is not worth hiding, and there is no need to. He has been sent to impel down by me. This time, we must catch them all. Sengoku's eyebrows danced, and there was a touch of pride and hostility in his words, which fell into the ears of others, but there was an unusual meaning. Akiji, Kizaru, and Akainu frowned and lowered their heads in silence. Don't tell me you want to execute Rayleigh as well. Wu Chen's sharp eyes are shining, throbbing with a threatening chill. He can see through Sengoku's mind at a glance and affirms. In order to strengthen the power of the Marine, this kind of trivial matter is not impossible. It was just one more person to be executed and 2 more executioners to be found. I think so. Akainu's eyes glowed with fanaticism. He was 100% willing to agree with Sengoku's approach. Together with Fire Fist Ace and Rayleigh, and by the way, destroy Whitebeard, just to solve all the people related to Roger. The symbolic meaning was self-evident. What do you think? Sengoku nodded with satisfaction, and finally his eyes fell on Dushless and asked curiously. Up to you. Anyway, the Whitebeard pirates must collapse this time. This is for justice, to maintain world peace. The righteous Marine will never lose to the evil pirates, and justice will win. Dushless, with a straight face, said impassioned, and there was great righteousness in his words. Sengoku, Akainu, and other admirals were stunned. Garp's face was weird, and the corners of his mouth squirmed. Thinking of Dustless's identity, he shut up. This guy is a Tenryubito, the most evil person in the world, and he shamelessly said that it was for justice. About half an hour later, the small meeting was over. The main issue that came back and forth was the Whitebeard pirates. In the softly lit office, Dustless sat leisurely, and the person who massaged his shoulders was Perona, while the secretary, Califa, stood with a cold expression. Her body was like a javelin, quite professional. Execution together. This is interesting. The vice captain of One Piece and his own son were executed together. This gorgeous drama can attract the attention of the world, and at the same time, it can increase the prestige of Marine, killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Guru Guru, the impatient sound of Den Den Mushi came, and Dustless looked at the dark Den Den Mushi on the table doubtfully. The person who contacted him was the Gorosei, 5 elder stars. Those 5 old men never look for me for a good thing. Looking up at the delicate ceiling, Dustless said to himself with certainty. That's why you are lawless. Glancing at Dustless, Califa said mercilessly. The Den Den Mushi in front of him looked gloomy, as if Dustless owed him a lot of money. Thinking about it, when the Gorosei, 5 elder stars, looked for Dustless, it was never good. Perona remained silent. Usually, she was the most talkative, but now, it was rare for her to be low-key. In fact, Perona couldn't say anything. It's not that she didn't want to talk, but she suddenly realized that she and Dustless were not in the same world, and simple language was difficult to communicate with. As a Marine Admiral, Dustless was in contact with Marine Fleet Admiral, and even Gorosei, 5 elder stars. She couldn't think at all. Chapter 848. Perona cautiously approached Califa and said in a voice as soft as a mosquito, "Do we need to leave? The other party is Gorosei, 5 elder stars. The more you know, the faster you die. This is an immutable truth. Leave." Califa shook her head resolutely and pointed at Dustless. "Do you think he wants us to leave?" She looked up and saw Wu Chen's sloppy expression. Both of his legs were placed on the table casually. He looked like a rich second generation. The person who contacted Dustless with Den Den Mushi was more like a hooligan to some extent. Only when dealing with hooligans would Dustless be so frivolous. Seeing this scene, Perona also knew that she was overthinking. Dustless didn't care, so they didn't need to care. She stood beside Dustless and massaged his back. Looking at the deep black Den Den Mushi with a headache expression, Dustless frowned secretly and vaguely understood the purpose of the call. "Isn't it just killing that pig head Charles? Is there a need to make such a fuss?" Calmly picking up the den mushi, Dustless whispered, as if nothing had happened. Louis South, Saint, please give us a reasonable explanation. On the other side of the den mushi, the angry voice of Gorosei, 5 elder stars, came over, and even the black den mushi was replaced by an angry expression. The celestial dragons were killed inhumanely, and the culprit just patted their buttocks and then swaggered away. The Gorosei, 5 elder stars, were furious. You celestial dragons are also of the same race, at least respect each other. Explanation. What kind of explanation do you need? Looking at the den mushi with a casual expression, Dustless's answer was also perfunctory. I, a celestial dragon, need to explain to you. Are you all mistaken? This ordinary sentence made the Gorosei, 5 elder stars, look stiff and speechless. The status of celestial dragons is higher than the Gorosei, 5 elder stars, and they are so straightforward that they are suspected of offending their superiors. However, although the Gorosei, 5 elder stars, is not as high as the celestial dragons, this is also an undeniable fact, but it is too direct and too hurtful. Even so, there is no need to kill Charles. The Gorosei, 5 elder stars, on the other side of the den mushi, a good celestial dragon was killed, without a reasonable explanation. It is difficult to suppress this matter. There are countless eyes in the whole world are watching this matter, there must be an explanation. Although the 5 elder stars, unfortunately, the law of this world does not allow them to do so. Do you still want to pursue it? Or, are you going to arrest me as a celestial dragon and execute me? 5 elder stars to 5 elder, 5, to SSS, with 5 fives. Hearing this, the Gorosei, 5 elder stars, of Mariewa, countless crows crossed their heads. Punish the celestial dragons. Even if they have this idea, they dare not do it. Of course not. The Gorosei, 5 elder stars, quickly denied it. After Dustless's, they no longer have the heart to blame. Instead of tangling with this, it is better to discuss how to settle the matter at hand. The celestial dragons have been killed, and the whole world is in a mess, waiting for them to explain. The celestial dragon, Charles, is dead. This is an indisputable fact. It is useless to blame Dustless, even if he is the culprit. There is no law in the world to punish the celestial dragons. But we have to give the world an explanation. We can't announce the identity of Louis South. On the other side of the black den mushi, it is obviously changed to someone else, and the voice is more powerful than the previous Gorosei, 5 elder stars. Dustless is actually quite familiar with the owner of this voice, and the bald Gorosei, 5 elder stars, with a sword suddenly appeared in his mind. It was Dustless who robbed his first-generation ghost blade with a plan. Give others an explanation. That's your business, I have other things to do, so I won't accompany you. When his voice fell, Dustless hung up the black den mushi, too lazy to talk nonsense with the 5 old guys. A group of old foxes who only know how to play tricks is useless. Charles Ross had been completely dead. Although he was a celestial dragon, he was not worth mentioning in the end. About a dozen years ago, Dustless also killed a celestial dragon, but at that time, he was still carefree. There is also a level gap between the celestial dragons. You really know how to cause trouble. Perona, who was responsible for massaging the shoulders behind him, couldn't help but be speechless. Her beautiful eyes kept rolling as if she had already seen the Gorosei, 5 elder stars, vomiting blood. How difficult and uncomfortable it is to live with such a lawless master. In fact, as Perona thought, the Gorosei, 5 elder stars, of Mariewa are indeed very entangled. Dustless can't be beaten or caught, and there is nothing they can do even if they know that he is a prisoner. If they want to punish Dustless, they are still too far away. After careful consideration, the Gorosei, 5 elder stars, can only repeat the same trick, and very decisively choose to throw the blame on others, such as the supernovas who attacked the celestial dragons in the Sabaody archipelago that day. They are all good scapegoats, which is the only strategy the Gorosei, 5 elder stars, can think of to protect Dustless. So what if I cause trouble? Anyway, someone will always take the blame for me. I don't know which unlucky guy is targeted by the Gorosei, 5 elder stars. Looking down at the marine headquarters that was being repaired, Dustless muttered to himself. Chapter 849. A few more days slipped away quietly, and as Dustless imagined, the unlucky guy came out. At this moment, Fleet Admiral Sengoku's office was filled with a strong smell of gunpowder. Looking around, the whole office was oppressive and almost suffocating. Although there were only a few people, everyone looked cautious. Boom! A tall body walked in front of Sengoku, and a strong palm slammed on the table, causing visible cracks to appear, and the surrounding documents were blown all over the floor. Sengoku's goat that was raised to eat intelligence suddenly had a good meal. There was no doubt that in the Marine Headquarters Fleet Admiral's office, besides Sengoku himself, there was only one person who dared to slap the table. This is not fair. Holding the latest newspaper in his hand angrily, Garp yelled, Luffy didn't kill a celestial dragon, why did they put such a big hat on his head? This time, Dustless took the blame for Monchi D. Luffy. There's nothing we can do about it. With a sigh, Sengoku found that he was quite sorry for his old comrade. Not only could he not help him, but he also framed Sun Zibo. This is what Mariehua and the others want. Sengoku made the final decision and pushed all the responsibility to the Gorosei, 5 elder stars. This was all done by them, and the Marine didn't even have the qualification to intervene. Aren't there other pirates? Let them take the blame. Garp said unwillingly. Once the crime of killing a celestial dragon is confirmed, Luffy won't have a chance to clear his name in the future, and he will become the public enemy of the world. Isn't there someone called Uchiha Madara? Give him the responsibility. Puff! Dustless, who was drinking tea, felt his lungs churn. The tea that entered his stomach spurted out uncontrollably. What do you think is inappropriate? Dissatisfied eyes swept over, and when he looked up, he saw Garp's face was black, and his words were full of unkindness. He couldn't help but feel aggrieved for Luffy. The incident in Eni's lobby was already bad enough, but this time, the killing of a celestial dragon fell on Luffy's head. Just thinking about it made Garp angry. In fact, I think it's quite appropriate to let Madara take the blame. Dustless smiled and said somewhat insincerely. If he put the blame for this incident on Madara, then it wouldn't be called a scapegoat. Sengoku's expression stiffened, and he immediately took out a document with a wry smile and handed it to Garp, saying, in fact, the scapegoat character I found was Uchiha Madara. Unfortunately, when I handed it to the Gorosei, they rejected it in one breath. His tone was extremely bleak, and it carried a trace of melancholy and loneliness. There is no doubt that Uchiha Madara is more suitable than anyone else to be the scapegoat. He is powerful and lawless. He dares to openly confront an admiral of the Marine, so Luffy is far more suitable to be the scapegoat. Cowardly, not like a righteous Marine at all. After pondering for a moment, Garp tore the document to shreds in anger and humiliation. His tone was filled with boundless killing intent. Sengoku looked at the scene in front of him in silence, and a sense of powerlessness arose in his heart. Why push the blame to Luffy? It's entirely because he's too weak. Even if he's unwilling and intends to resist, Luffy can't do anything substantial. Therefore, this inexplicable blame all fell on Luffy's head. He can only blame himself for not having the right to speak and can only go with the flow. This service is really considerate. Looking at the document torn by the furious Garp, Dustless understood the meaning of the Gorosei. Compared to the mysterious Uchiha Madara, Luffy is indeed more suitable to be the scapegoat. One is a powerful and lawless monster, and the other is a weak ant. It's reasonable for the government and the Marine to finally choose to push the blame to Luffy. According to Dustless's guess, the Gorosei are afraid that the Marine will suffer fierce retaliation if they push the blame to Uchiha Madara. At this time, the Marine is about to go to war with the Whitebeard pirates. If they offend Uchiha Madara and get attacked by him, there will definitely be a disaster. After all, Uchiha Madara defeated two admirals, Kizaru and Akiji. In the end, Luffy was abandoned by the Marine and the government and became Dustless's scapegoat. Don't be sad, Garp. Sengoku softly comforted. Garp can't afford to lose. Whether in terms of strength or stability, Garp will play a decisive role in this battle. Don't forget, that kid hit a celestial dragon. Although Celestial Dragon was killed by Dustless, Straw Hat Luffy did hit Celestial Dragon. Even if Dustless didn't kill Charles, he would still be killed by Luffy. The reason is that Luffy's friend was shot by Charles, which aroused Luffy's anger. It's only a matter of time before he kills the Celestial Dragon. After a long silence, Garp finally nodded absent-mindedly and sat back on the sofa. This is the case in this world, the law of the jungle, the strong are respected, not to mention the fact that Luffy hit a celestial dragon. Chapter 850. After a long silence, Garp finally nodded absent-mindedly and sat back on the sofa again. The world is like this, paying attention to the law of the jungle, and the strong are respected, not to mention the fact that Luffy killed a Tenryubito. Even if Dustless didn't kill Charles, according to Luffy's temperament, he would definitely kill Charles even if he was enraged. Now, it was merely Dustless who killed someone, and the scapegoat was replaced by Luffy. Rumble rumble, a rush of Den Den Mushi broke the dull atmosphere. Sengoku was stunned and immediately picked up the Den Den Mushi. Fleet Admiral, the New World was once related to the Whitebeard pirates, and all of them have disappeared without a trace. Hearing this, Sengoku's mouth twitched, and his face showed a touch of fatigue. During this period, his hair was a lot white, and his whole body was bent, and he was obviously a lot older. Recently, the Whitebeard pirates have made big moves one after another, and Sengoku's head was broken. He wanted to stop it, but he couldn't. Because at this moment, 9 out of 10 of the world's forces are concentrated in the Marine headquarters, and the New World is completely empty. He wants to stop it, but he doesn't have that ability at all. Monitor them immediately, and report to me every move. Sengoku calmly ordered, although it was just a pretense. No matter when, as a Marine Fleet Admiral, he must remain calm enough. Even if Mount Tai collapses in front of him, he must not be seen through by the enemy. Come to think of it, where's the man with black beard? Wuchen suddenly asked with a light in his eyes. Akiji and others frowned when they heard this, and they began to think about Blackbeard's whereabouts, but they were surprised to find that the old guy seemed to disappear out of thin air. Bastard, at such an urgent moment, where did that ambitious man go? Sengoku, who instinctively realized that something was wrong, roared. At such a tense moment, Blackbeard disappeared inexplicably, and Sengoku couldn't calm down. A character comparable to an admiral disappeared, and it was difficult for Sengoku to calm down. What about his accomplices? Thinking of several crew members of Blackbeard Teach, Sengoku raised his voice. If these people are still in Marin, it means that Blackbeard has no signs of rebellion. If they disappear collectively like Blackbeard, it means self-evident what it means. I'm afraid he's long gone. Dustless suddenly opened his mouth and said, "When I came here just now, I saw a warship suddenly leave." Sengoku's face changed dramatically. A few days ago, he ordered that except for the family members on the island, everyone should leave Marin strictly. It was self-evident who escaped by boat. Do you want to send someone to chase after him? Leaving Blackbeard alone will definitely cause a big problem. Akainu frowned and asked hoarsely, revealing a strong murderous aura. There's no need. Let him be. Dustless interrupted, people like Blackbeard are sincere in causing destruction. It's useless for us to stop them. It's better to let nature take its course. Don't forget that the current enemy is Whitebeard. Sengoku gently nodded. Even if he wanted to chase Blackbeard, he was powerless because the Marine didn't know Blackbeard's movements at all. Akainu, Kizaru, and Akiji stay in the Marine headquarters. Royce South is responsible for going to Impel Down to extract the Fire Fist. When he comes, he will be executed immediately. Sengoku said to Dustless. Of course, there is also the One Piece King's right arm, Rayleigh. This time, he will be executed together with him. Sengoku said. Dustless nodded slowly. The significance of executing Rayleigh is far greater than imprisoning him. It can play the role of knocking the mountain to scare the tiger. But I don't know if it will go as smoothly as you think. Glancing at Sengoku, Dustless left the Fleet Admiral's office directly. Everything can't go as smoothly as Sengoku thought. Rayleigh is not an idiot, and Dustless will not obediently accept the punishment. All in all, this is an unprecedented fierce battle. Of course, the target of the fierce battle is only limited to the Marine. Dustless is detached from the world and will not be affected. On the blue sea, the large giant warship moved forward quickly, cutting through the thorns and brambles, riding the wind and waves, and their destination is Impel Down. Blackbeard may be in Impel Down. Looking at the void in front of him, he saw Blackbeard's arrogant and unscrupulous figure. Blackbeard took the risk to go deep into Impel Down alone, nothing more than to find the so-called companions. It is undeniable that the prisoners at the bottom of Impel Down are indeed unimaginably strong, and it is normal for Blackbeard to find them as companions. At this time, in another direction, a big red ship is also sailing at full speed, and its destination is also Impel Down, but its flag is obviously different from the Marine flag. It is a unique pirate flag. Looking closely, it is the Akagami, red hair, pirates. Under Luffy's strong desire, Akagami, red hair, can only help this kid with all his strength. Although the hope is slim and even negligible, he chooses to follow his conscience and instincts. Fortunately, all the Akagami, red hair, pirates support him. At the same time, the Marine battleship seized by Blackbeard also rushed to Impel Down, and because of the early arrival, all of them have landed in Impel Down, a place full of evil. The same is true for Shanks and Dustless. As time goes by, they are close to Impel Down. Chapter 851. On the distant sea, a huge battleship was galloping. It was full of Marines. Everyone's expression was almost the same. They all showed great panic and their legs were soft. Hey 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 hey, his signature cold smile was unbridled, completely unbridled and arrogant. A man with an open belly and a chest full of hair suddenly stood out. He looked ferocious and ugly like a pig. He had a grin on his face, and from time to time there was a burst of disgusting breath. He gave people the feeling that he was a beast in human clothes. Staring at the group of Marines, his eyes flashed with cunning and cruel eyes. Captain Titch, you are too naughty. Lafitte, one of Blackbeard's crew, teased. Blackbeard looked ferocious and intimidated the group of Marines. Seeing their silent appearance, Blackbeard grinned. You didn't forget what I just told you, otherwise. A cruel killing intent flashed in the corner of Blackbeard's eyes. He raised his right hand, which instantly turned dark black. A majestic and dense gravitational force shot out from his palm. The air flowing in the void was swallowed by this dark hand. The other side of him was like the abyss of the universe. Ah! Let me go! A captured Marine screamed. His internal organs were being sucked by the dark hand. His body gradually shriveled and turned from a living person into a yellow skeleton. All of this happened in the blink of an eye. Captain's devil fruit ability has greatly increased. In the future, he will replace Whitebeard and become the Pirate King. Even surpassing the Pirate King is just around the corner. Seeing that, Blackbeard raised his hand to destroy the Marines. Bugaz, who was in charge of the helm, began to flatter Blackbeard. His flattering expression was more respectful than seeing his father. A while ago, Blackbeard's control of the dark fruit was far from reaching such a level of proficiency. Now that he was using it so skillfully, it was obvious that Blackbeard had strengthened his training during this period of time, which was why he could improve so quickly. At the same time, more and more abilities condensed in his body. During this period of time, he had devoured more than 100 devil fruit ability users, and he had taken their ability from them. With pressure comes motivation. This is all thanks to those two men, Blackbeard said with a smile of exultation. Although he knew that this was flattery, it was very effective on him. He had always been the one sucking up to others. Now that he was suddenly being sucked up to, Blackbeard felt exceptionally happy. His 10 fingers were adorned with rings made of gold and inlaid with all kinds of gorgeous gems. They shone especially brightly under the sunlight. Not only that, Blackbeard's face was rustic and uncouth, as if he was a villain who had achieved success. Hurry up and ram the ship into Impel Down, or else you will end up like him. Blackbeard threatened the remaining Marine soldiers. His whole body was covered in darkness, like a grim reaper in black. His strange, dark hands were far more exciting than a sharp sickle. These ordinary Marines almost had a mental breakdown. Under the threat of death, they chose to help Blackbeard. They directly controlled the battleship to break through the defense of Impel Down and directly hit the inland. Boom boom boom. The huge battleship was like a meteorite falling from the sky. The ground of Impel Down splashed a lot of dust. In the hazy dust, several figures of different shapes jumped off the ship. Hey 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 hey, looking at the entrance of Impel Down in front of him, Blackbeard's face flashed a cold arc and immediately stepped in with his head held high. Bang bang bang, the jailers and Marines who came from all around were hit hard by the overwhelming strength. Hundreds of Marines who came to support were killed by the Blackbeard pirates in the blink of an eye. Am I too late? After an hour, Dustless came. Impel Down was like a purgatory on earth. Corpses were everywhere. This miserable scene made Dustless frown. There shouldn't be. Dustless's secretary Califo looked around. The harbor was full and almost all the battleships were there. Obviously, Blackbeard had not left Impel Down. In a trance, they could still hear the cruel screams of fear. Hey 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 hey, in the dark prison, there was a burst of arrogant laughter, followed by an arrogant voice that fell into everyone's ears. Looking up, the iron prison in the deepest part of Impel Down had been opened by Blackbeard with brute force. Countless ferocious criminals were rushing to escape from the cage. I'll give you half an hour to fight. The one who survives in the end will be my companion. We will become the Pirate King together and conquer. Conquer what? Don't dream about it, Titch. An extremely uncoordinated voice interrupted Blackbeard. He looked up and saw Fire Fist Ace glaring at him. His entire body was shrouded in an extremely oppressive aura of flames. Fire Fist Ace and Blackbeard have a blood feud. Ace, with your current identity as a stray dog, you still want to challenge me? Blackbeard said disdainfully with a sneer on the corner of his mouth. I haven't seen you for a while. Your arrogance is no less than before, Blackbeard. A dazzling flash of light suddenly appeared. A large number of photons came from all directions and condensed into Dustless's figure. He can't, but there's me. Chapter 852. There are only two people that Blackbeard hates the most in his life. One is Whitebeard, who almost killed him. It can be said that the hatred between them is as deep as the sea. He can't wait to tear Whitebeard into pieces. The other is the young man in front of him, the youngest admiral of the Marine. Why are you here? You should be in the Marine headquarters fighting against the Whitebeard pirates. In the end, Blackbeard almost roared out. The fear and threat that Dustless gave him was no less than that of Whitebeard. It wasn't only Blackbeard who looked gloomy. Most of the pirates who witnessed Dustless recognized the legendary admiral. During this period, many pirates were caught by Dustless and sent to impel down. For Dustless, they are unforgettable. Of course, it's all unforgettable hatred. Everyone, let's kill this Marine admiral together. Otherwise, we won't be able to go out. We will all be killed by him in this ghost place. We will be cruelly suppressed again and be slaughtered. Lafitte's mouth swept with a sly smile as he shouted. His powerful and advantageous tone was bewitching, swallowing and wearing away their inner reason. Apparently, he intended to use the power of this group of pirates to destroy Dustless together. These people had already gone crazy from being locked up. They couldn't wait to get out. Anyone who went against them would receive a fatal beating from them. Kill him. The eyes of all the pirates turned scarlet, and they were filled with terrible hostility. A group of fools, have you been blinded by the fanatical mentality of freedom? Fool, challenging me is not a step to freedom, but a step into the door of the underworld. His whole body swept with a more bright high-density light, and his hands condensed a golden sword. The invincible edge made people not dare to look directly at it. The burning light seemed to be blinding. When he was about to personally destroy this group of rioting pirates, two unexpected figures came out like arrows. Bang bang bang, the oncoming pirates were instantly kicked away by the combined forces of the two. It was extremely simple and easy. Hancock and Khalifa. That's surprising. A soft smile appeared on his indifferent face. Dustless understood that Hancock helped him, but he didn't understand why Khalifa suddenly interfered. After all, he killed all the CP9 members except Khalifa, and it stands to reason that he should hate him. You're wrong. I just don't want these people to kill you. Khalifa pushed up her glasses. Her beautiful, gem-like eyes were as dazzling as the stars. You are my prey. I don't want you to die in the hands of these people. Not bad. An even more unexpected petite figure came into view. Looking up, it was Perona. Seeing this scene, Dustless couldn't help but feel dumbfounded. He didn't expect his head to be so valuable. Not only did the enemy want it, but his own people were no exception. Hey, you bastard, you're quite popular with women. Blackbeard stared at Hancock and the other two beauties with a gloomy face. He had lived for a long time, and he could naturally see the meaning of the three women. His sour tone was somewhat jealous. In most of his life, no woman had ever looked at Blackbeard. That's for sure. Hearing this, Dustless turned his head and looked at Blackbeard contemptuously. He showed a mocking smile and said sarcastically, "Compared with a fat pig like you, I'm very popular with women." Boom boom boom, at the same time, Hancock, Khalifa, and Perona launched a fierce attack. Especially Hancock, under her weak body hid a destructive power. Compared to an admiral, she was even more powerful. Although Khalifa and Perona were not as good as Hancock, they were not careless when they attacked. Every time they used their ability, they would take away a large number of people. You too. Where do you want to go? In the dark corridor, Dustless's figure suddenly disappeared and turned into thousands of photons, flashing bright light, and the entire dark bottom of Impel Down was as bright as day. Dustless pointed at the two people who were planning to sneak away. It was Rayleigh and Fire Fist Ace. I have made a military order to the warring states. How can I bear the two of you running away so carelessly? Photons floated, and Dustless blocked Fire Fist Ace and Rayleigh in an instant. His cold face was full of indifference, and he held the Kusanagi sword in his hand to block their way. You two are the main characters in the script of this war. I can't let you just walk away like that. Fire Fist Ace and Rayleigh heard this and looked at each other. They could see the determination in each other's eyes. They looked at Dustless and were full of fighting spirit. Obviously, they would not wait for death. Ace and Mr. Rayleigh, you two leave first. His target is you two. I will hold him back for a while. When his voice fell, a lightning-like hurricane swept toward them. Because of the speed, even his appearance could not be seen clearly. Hero of the sea, Jinbi. You want to hold me back with your half-baked skills? I really don't know where your confidence comes from. You are really ignorant. You can't touch my body in your life. No wonder you are so confident. It turns out that the ability of the dark fruit is very fast. But in the end, it can't be used. The photons gathered and condensed into the entity of Dustless. The majestic gravity enveloped Dustless. Instead of resisting, he rushed towards Blackbeard faster. Armament hockey hardening. As he approached Blackbeard, his fist turned dark black in an instant and went straight towards Blackbeard's face. Ha! I am not afraid of you. Blackbeard's laughter was full of arrogance. Unlike the past, in the face of Dustless's attack, he chose to face it head-on, and his right arm with the dark fruit also smashed without fear. Bang bang bang, in the center of the battle between the two, the destructive waves spread and erupted. Under this violent force, the surrounding terrain was rewritten on a large scale and all of it was razed to the ground. This incredible scene awakened Fire Fist Ace. He didn't expect that Blackbeard, who was not worth mentioning in the past, could now openly confront a Marine Admiral. Ha ha ha. This is my strength. It's not any weaker than yours. Sensing the ease of passing through the fist, Blackbeard laughed out loud with a smile of exultation. Not only did he catch Dustless's attack, but he even had the upper hand. However, before he could be proud for long, Dustless sent him to hell with a sentence. Stupid man. A powerful momentum suddenly broke out in his body, and the small hand covered with armament hockey shined brighter. Not only that, but the strength in his hand also rose rapidly. It was a rise of several times. Caw caw caw, with the sound of bones breaking, Blackbeard's expression changed greatly, and his face turned blue and white. His arm that collided with Dustless could not withstand the sudden force and was fractured. And because of the particularity of the dark fruit, the pain he suffered was twice as much as usual. Roar, roar, roar. Aw! A pitiful scream that was neither human nor ghost resounded through the dark skies. Soon after, Blackbeard couldn't withstand it any longer and was easily sent flying away. He crashed through several walls and his entire body was covered in blood and flesh. One could see that his arms were bent in a state of near bending. Just like Jinbi, he was killed on the spot with just a thought. He didn't even have the strength to fight back. They weren't in the same dimension at all. Even the large hand that was concentrating on condensing the black sphere trembled. This highly dense sphere was almost destroyed. If I really cared about you, I wouldn't have left like this. You're right, I really don't care about you, Dustless admitted frankly with a "you're very smart" look on his face. You forced me to do this, dark acupoint. Blackbeard, who was angry out of humiliation, roared sharply and used his strongest move at the moment. The darkness hidden in his body desperately leaked out. It was like a flood that broke through the dam. There was no end, and it was eternal and infinite. The sphere condensed by the void continued to expand, and it was getting bigger and bigger. The highly dense gravitational sphere wanted to crush the world, forcibly distorting the void, and constantly absorbing the darkness from Blackbeard's body to increase its size. This move, ha ha ha. This is one of my current moves. Are you scared, silly? Ha ha ha, without waiting for Dustless to finish speaking, Blackbeard rudely interrupted, followed by a proud signature smile. His ruthless and ruthless appearance was filled with unprecedented hatred. For Dustless, he couldn't wait to tear him into pieces. This move is indeed not bad. But, with a contemptuous smile, Dustless said bluntly, "You want to destroy me with this lousy sphere? Blackbeard, your strength has improved, but your brain is still at the same level." With a bright brilliance rising from his body, Dustless indifferently looked down at the floating black sphere. The chakra hidden in his body skyrocketed, forming an unprecedentedly large Kansusanu arm. An unprecedentedly large arm that was actually dozens of meters tall. Blackbeard was dumbfounded and tongue-tied at the sight. What is he doing? Looking at the large golden arm in the void, Blackbeard choked. Looking at his line of sight, one could clearly see that part of Kansusanu's arm was grabbing the black sphere formed by dark acupoint. This bastard, is he trying to crush him? Blackbeard couldn't help but go crazy. He was so angry that he cursed. His strongest move was actually treated like this by the enemy. His old face was flushed red. This was a slap in the face. From the looks of it, it was obvious that he wanted to crush him with his bare hands. Blackbeard, open your eyes and see clearly. This is the gap. No matter how hard you work, how hard you fight, how many devil fruits you devour, you can't overcome this gap. Sneering, Dustless controlled the part of Kansusanu's arm to rapidly rise, and it was about to receive the super-large black sphere. His 5 thick fingers spread open and directly grabbed at the black sphere. Chapter 855. The two completely opposite lights that soared into the sky attracted everyone's attention. They stared dumbfoundedly at this unprecedented collision. They all thought that it would be an intense fight to the death. A group of pirates eagerly looked at the destructive black ball in the void. The pirates were full of joy. Once Dustless is defeated by Blackbeard, they can also escape. Leave this place where people and ghosts can't be distinguished. However, it's a pity that these hopeful pirates are doomed to be disappointed. This kind of small trick is not worth mentioning. It's your strongest trick. It's really disappointing. Fearing that Blackbeard could not understand the meaning, Wu Chen deliberately emphasized the words, "really disappointing," and lingered in the void for a long time. It seemed to be full of magic and lingered in Blackbeard's ears. Blackbeard was furious, and the chest hair on his belly stood up. In front of so many people, he was ridiculed as weak. Even if his skin was as thick as a marine battleship, he couldn't help but turn green. There were faint signs of him going berserk. Caw caw caw. When Blackbeard was angry, there was a sound like glass breaking in the dark void. Looking up, he saw the localized Kansusanu penetrating the black ball. His relaxed and unhurried manner made him look like he was torturing a child. Caw 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 caw. The shattering sound became increasingly intense. The 5 golden fingers penetrated deep into the interior of the black ball and penetrated it. Immediately, the ball, which had a monstrous momentum earlier, collapsed and was destroyed in an instant under everyone's stunned and disbelieving gazes. Rice Bucket, I had so much confidence in you. It turns out that you are just a flower vase. Damn, this time I will definitely be suppressed again. That idiot named Blackbeard was so confident. I thought he really had the strength to fight against a marine admiral. A burst of unscrupulous ridicule and abuse suddenly came. Blackbeard became the target of public criticism. Everyone pointed their guns at him and did not hesitate to curse. You are a group of unscrupulous things. If it weren't for me, you would still be in prison. No matter how shameless the pirates are, you should at least be grateful to me. I am your savior. After a twitch in the corner of his mouth, Blackbeard roared. You don't have time to worry about others. Think about how you're going to survive. The high-density flash gathered and Blackbeard instinctively closed his eyes. At the same time, his observation haki spread, and so did armament haki. Through the perception of observation haki, Blackbeard can clearly perceive that an attack that can destroy a mountain is locked on him. Lightspeed kick. The motionless Blackbeard was hit. Even with the armament haki defense, his skin was as tough as iron. In this unparalleled absolute kick, the surface of his skin was crushed. There was an obvious dent, and of course, there were also burn marks. Captain Bogaz, Lafitte, Van Oka, and the other crew members all changed their expressions. They turned around and glared at Dustless with murderous intent. You still want to make a move, but if you're not afraid of death, you can come at me. However, the price you'll have to pay will be even more severe than Blackbeard. This casual sentence made the faces of Blackbeard's few crew members sink, and the surging murderous aura in their bodies wisely restrained and dissipated. Blackbeard fainted completely, his body was covered with blood, and wounds of various sizes were all over his body. He was only one step away from death. If they make a move, their fate will be even worse than Blackbeard's. The meaning is self-evident, that is death. Perona, Hancock, and Khalifa. It's time to retreat. There's no need to entangle. The target is not them. There's no need to care about this group of people. There was no emotion, like a mechanical voice in the ears of the three women. The three women looked at each other and immediately moved in the direction of Dustless. Let's go. After looking at the group of pirates, Dustless's mouth swept with a fierce smile and disappeared from everyone's sight with the three women. Master, it's not good to turn a blind eye like this, right? Hancock asked unwillingly. How can he let go of a large group of pirates? The group of pirates in Impel Down are extremely evil, and the prisoners at the bottom are even more sinful thugs. If they are released, the whole world will fall into a whirlpool of turmoil. Khalifa said with a frown. Of course I know this. As a Marine Admiral, Dustless naturally understands this kind of thing. Many of the prisoners at the bottom of Impel Down were left alone during the time of Roger and Whitebeard. The damage caused by these people is even greater than the Yonko, four emperors. In particular, the Marines have imprisoned them for most of their lives, and the two sides have long had deep hatred. However, there are more than thousands of prisoners in Impel Down. If we kill them one by one, how long will it take? Sengoku kept urging the capture of Fire Fist Ace and Rayleigh. These characters are not the protagonists of this war. Dustless has no free time to play with them. You are a Marine Admiral and they are pirates. You won't just ignore them? Perona asked doubtfully. Dustless's indifferent appearance was obviously planning to slip away and abandon them. Let them go. Of course not. Glancing at the women, Dustless was as cold as frost, his eyes were filled with terrible anger, and he said with killing intent, I can only destroy Impel Down. I don't have time to play with them. Chapter 856. Glancing at the few women, Wu Chen was as cold as ice. His eyes were throbbing with frightening hostility. He said with murderous intention, I can only destroy Impel Down. I don't have time to accompany them. There was a deep chill in his words, and the three women trembled unconsciously. Dustless's ruthless words were obviously not a joke. The closer to the exit, the more corpses there will be. Most of them are the corpses of Marines and some jailers. The way they died was also terrible. They were all sucked dry and only bones were left. This was all thanks to Blackbeard, who took the opportunity to attack Impel Down. The Marines in Impel Down are almost wiped out. At present, only pirates survive here. For world peace, they can only be sacrificed. This is also convenient and fast, and it also saves headaches. Looking at the corpses all over the ground, Dustless said quite casually. A group of pirates is just dead. Directly destroying Impel Down is the fastest way. There is no extra time to kill them one by one, and the execution is close at hand. The two protagonists, Fire Fist Ace and Rayleigh, are naturally not missing. In the future, I must tear that bastard Blackbeard into pieces. As soon as he stepped out of the exit of Impel Down, a low roar of anger came with the breeze. Dustless's eyebrows were slightly raised and he rushed to the place where the sound came from. Fire Fist Ace and Rayleigh came into view. What you want to do, I helped you do it, and it can be regarded as helping you realize your dream. Dustless said quietly. If Blackbeard doesn't die in front of him, he won't be spared when he destroys Impel Down. Then the thread of conversation changed. Dustless sneered, I helped you realize your dream. Now it's time for you to repay me. It's your turn to help me realize my dream. Fire Fist Ace and Underworld King Rayleigh's expressions froze. Both of them were smart people. The meaning of these words was to help Dustless complete his dream of execution. Run now. I don't know where the Admiral went. Seize the opportunity. Bastard, don't block my way. Get out of my way. Behind him, in the dark passage that connected to the interior of Impel Down, there was a scrambling noise, and the ground was also throbbing. A large wave of prisoners was frantically running in the direction of Dustless, that is, the exit of Impel Down. Just wait for death obediently. Why do you have to put up a last-ditch struggle? Raising his eyebrows, Dustless's body erupted with dense chakra. When his hands touched the ground that was originally trembling slightly suddenly began to tremble. It was as though some kind of monster was breaking out of the ground. The ground actually protruded strangely. Vaguely, one could see 5 huge green-faced fanged doors protruding from the ground. 5 Rashomon. The light of dawn was blocked by the gate that suddenly rose from the ground. The pirates stared at the decaying gate and tried to bombard it with their own abilities, but they couldn't move it. A bunch of idiots. The defensive power of the 5 Rashomon I released with my full strength is far beyond Senju Hashirama. You want to break through it? It's still a few decades too early. Hearing the unwilling roar from inside Impel Down, Dustless sneered again and again. Then it's you too. Looking around Rayleigh and Fire Fist Ace, Dustless's eyes began to change, and the mysterious Magatama on his face was clearly visible, exuding an ominous aura. Let's go together. Fire Fist Ace and Underworld King Rayleigh glanced at each other, then immediately turned into a storm and pounced over. They couldn't go to heaven and there was no door to the earth. Since that was the case, they could only make a final struggle. Seeing this, Hancock, Khalifa, and Perona looked at each other and resolutely stood in front of Dustless. Go back, the 3 of you and the 2 of them will only drag on for longer and longer. Taking a step forward, his Sharingan surged with a faint ripple that was almost negligible. Even so, Rayleigh and Fire Fist Ace, who were staring at Dustless's every move, were stunned and immediately fell to the ground. Hancock, who was accustomed to Dustless's strength, could still remain calm, but Perona and Khalifa were stunned. They just glanced at the 2 of them lightly and Rayleigh and Fire Fist Ace fainted. It was so easy to kill Rayleigh and Fire Fist Ace. This is obviously beyond the limits of human cognition. Even if Roger, the Pirate King, returned from hell, he couldn't do this. This is not the limit that humans can reach. Don't worry, this is just a little trick like Genjutsu. It's getting late, it's time to leave. Seeing Khalifa and Perona petrified, Dustless impatiently urged them. It was just Genjutsu, and he immediately left safely, leaving the 2 of them with his back. Don't worry. Hearing this, Perona and Khalifa looked at each other and could see the speechless shock in each other's eyes. If the other party was an ordinary pirate, they would definitely not care, but one is the son of the Pirate King and the other is the right-hand man of the Pirate King. With just a glance, the 2 of them lost their fighting power. The gap is too big. Next, it's your turn, Hancock, Khalifa, and others left on the battleship first. Dustless covered himself with a high-density chakra that was nearly 200 meters high. A monster wearing heavy armor and a Tengu helmet instantly appeared. He was like a warrior that had walked out from ancient myths and legends. How small was the heavens and earth before him? Being affected by the golden light from the giant's body, one would feel despair. Chapter 857. The giant in front of him is exaggerated beyond the imagination of the world. It is not an exaggeration to say that he is a demon that destroys the world. The two slender ancient swords on his waist are enough to kill everything in seconds. Caw caw caw, on the vast island, suddenly there was a sound of land collapsing, and immediately there was a depression in the central area. This. It seems that I don't need to do anything, impel down will be finished. Looking at his feet, Dustless was speechless for a moment. For the first time, he felt that Kansusanu was such a hindrance. The collapsed land could not bear the weight of Kansusanu, like a spider web, the ground slowly sank, and the sea water overflowed to the land. Buzz, with a loud and clear sound, the long sword on his waist came out. Dustless on top of Kansusanu's head stared indifferently at the island below. Nearly 200 meters in the sky, at the moment, it was particularly small in his eyes. Disappear. The tachi of light fell from the sky, and impelled down in the depths of the sea. Even the entire island was destroyed and penetrated by the golden light. Caw caw caw, impel down was divided into two, and the surrounding islands could not escape the nightmare. Under Kansusanu's all-conquering destructive offensive, no one could escape. There were a large number of sea kings in the surrounding sea area. Countless broken bodies and blood mixed in the sea. The top predator in this sea area, the Sea Kings, heard the news and came. Marine headquarters is full of Marin. The densely packed Marines are waiting, thousands of them, more than imagined. They are stepping up to modulate various instruments, and after repeatedly confirming that there is no problem, they left in a hurry. In the Fleet Admiral's office, through the window, Sengoku looked down at the Navy with a soft smile on his old face. His heart was in a mess, but now it was barely stable. The Whitebeard pirates, as well as the forces that were affiliated to him, or the pirates that were indirectly related to him, have disappeared. Even if he doesn't know their whereabouts, there is no doubt that there is only one final purpose: Fire Fist Ace. It's finally here. Looking at the battleship flashing in the distant sea, Sengoku sighed heavily, and his hanging heart landed safely. After a little adjustment, he strode out of the office. The Marine Fleet Admiral's every move represents the entire Marine and must always be calm. At the large port where the warship was docked, Sengoku and a group of Marine executives couldn't wait and looked at the soldiers coming down from the ship with eager eyes. It wasn't until Rayleigh and Fire Fist Ace appeared that Sengoku's eyes lit up. Halfway through, Wuchen was attacked and fought fiercely with the prisoners of Impel Down. He knew it like a mirror. Where is that Blackbeard guy? I knew that guy would betray us. But I didn't expect him to have the idea of Impel Down. Sengoku said with a pale face. He knew the prisoners in Impel Down better than anyone else. Many of them were big pirates who were arrested by him and Garp in the past. After glancing at Sengoku, Dustless said lazily, "When I arrived at Impel Down, it was too late." Blackbeard had already destroyed Impel Down, and, at this point, Dustless looked at Sengoku. All the Marines in Impel Down, as well as the jailers, were killed by the pirates he released. Sengoku's whole body erupted with a terrible momentum, and the soul-stirring pressure directly formed a storm. His whole body flashed with a dazzling golden light, faintly showing the appearance of a big Buddha. This guy. It seems that he wants to kill me. Dustless's eyes flashed with surprise. After so many years in the Marine, it was the first time he felt the killing intent of Sengoku. This wave of killing intent, like the endless sea, should not be underestimated. Finally. Where did that Blackbeard guy go? Sengoku asked with a gloomy and hoarse tone. It seemed that as long as Blackbeard was still alive, he would personally kill him. I don't know. Shrugging, Dustless had an expression of not understanding. Sengoku's fierce expression stagnated, and he immediately asked in doubt, "You were also an Impel Down at that time. How could you not know Blackbeard's movements?" Looking at Dustless suspiciously, Fleet Admiral Sengoku instinctively thought that he was lying. He sank Impel Down, and all the prisoners sank to the bottom of the sea. No one knows whether they are alive or dead. But the chance of survival in that kind of place should be zero. Rayleigh's face was ashen, and his tone was weak in vicissitudes. Sengoku stared at Dustless with scarlet eyes. Seeing this scene, Dustless thought that he would be scolded, but he didn't expect Sengoku to finally smile. Well done. Sengoku did not hesitate to give Dustless an appreciative look. It was not difficult to see that he was extremely satisfied with this result. The pirates in Impel Down are all fierce and murderous. Now that the Marine and the Whitebeard pirates are about to start a full-scale war, there is no extra time and spare manpower to take care of them. Although this method is cruel and cold-blooded, in this special period, they can't take care of it. In this way, it is most appropriate to annihilate all of them and bury the dead Marines and jailers. Chapter 858. Although Sengoku was not an Impel Down at that time, he also supported Dustless's approach. The Marine headquarters was still waiting for Fire Fist Ace and Rayleigh, the two biggest protagonists. Naturally, they couldn't delay time, and they couldn't let the group of big pirates escape. The fastest and most effective way was to destroy Impel Down. If Sengoku was in the position of Dustless at that time, he would do the same. It seems that everything is ready. Looking up, the entire Marine headquarters has become an inescapable net, all the mechanisms have been refurbished, and the soldiers are also in high spirits. Everything is ready, except for the Whitebeard pirates, the only supporting actor. Dad definitely won't fall for it. Your deceptive traps won't work at all. Fire Fist Ace roared in a somewhat deranged manner. Since you know he won't be fooled, why are you so excited? It's useless to deceive yourself, Ace. Dustless glanced at Fire Fist Ace with pity. He was afraid that he couldn't even deceive himself. Otherwise, Fire Fist Ace wouldn't be so hysterical. He was just deceiving himself and others. Dark King Rayleigh was silent. He and Whitebeard were from the same era. Dark King Rayleigh knew Whitebeard's temperament better than anyone else. He had a unique understanding of it. Take them away. Sengoku turned and ordered the soldiers behind him. The empty executioner was particularly dazzling. The two protagonists, Fire Fist Ace and Rayleigh, should go up as soon as possible. That's their stage. The object of their performance is also the whole world. They really know how to enjoy themselves, and the position in the middle won't be mine. Dustless looked at Sengoku and said. Following his line of sight, under the executioner, there were 4 special seats. Kizaru, Akainu, and Akiji were all sitting on special chairs, but no one sat in the middle position. There are currently 4 admirals in the Marine. In addition to the 3 of them, there is Dustless. It goes without saying who that position belongs to. There's nothing to be surprised about, and there's no need to feel embarrassed. You are an admiral of the Marine, and your status and strength are enough for that position. Sengoku said calmly. Reason said so. If Dustless doesn't live up to his name, it will be difficult for him to sit there. Since you said so, then I won't be polite. Shrugging, Dustless said casually. He just wanted to solve this boring war, and then control Uchiha Madara to destroy Whitebeard's territory and take it for himself. The position of the Yonko, 4 emperors, must take this opportunity. At the same time, the Marine headquarters also turned on the video Den Den Mushi, aiming at Fire Fist Ace and Rayleigh. People all over the world looked at these two characters and the world instantly boiled. Of course, the 4 admirals, under the executioner. But in the middle, the most eye-catching, in the middle, the most eye-catching, in the middle, the most eye-catching, was, the most, 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 was the most eye-catching, this guy. Oh, forget it. Sengoku, who was on the executioner, looked helplessly at Dustless below and was too lazy to talk nonsense. The more Dustless was like this, the more confident he was to take down Whitebeard. In fact, the world is very curious about the youngest and mysterious admiral, but there is very little or no news about him. He is a complete mystery, almost the same as the Gorosei, 5 elder stars. Dustless has few opportunities to fight. Generally, people who are worth fighting have been beheaded or locked in the Impel Down, and he has hardly appeared in public for more than 10 years. This is the only time he has appeared in public. In an instant, he attracted the attention of people all over the world. God is really unfair. How can the gap be so big? What an enviable guy. Akiji said with envy. The 3 of them have been busy for so long, but now it seems that they are still comparable to Dustless. The gap between the 2 sides is beyond his reach. Kazan, turning his head and glancing at them, Dustless closed his eyes again. The more dazzling the position, the more things I have to bear. You know I'm lazy. If I can, I really don't want to be in this position. Sengoku arranged Dustless in the middle of several people, and also secretly said that the person who killed Whitebeard this time must be him. Indeed. These words attracted Akainu and others to nod. As Dustless said, the more dazzling the position, the more burden it means in the future. Yeah. It's strange, it's been so long, that guy Whitebeard hasn't come yet. Is he running away? Kizaru tilted his head, and his performance was quite magnanimous, which is related to his temperament. The Marine has such a big lineup, mobilizing the elites of the world, it's normal for Whitebeard to hide like a mouse. Akainu said with a normal expression. No, Dustless's closed eyes suddenly opened, and his deep and long eyes were like the stars hanging in the sky. Looking as far as the eye can see, the scene under the deep sea can be seen. Don't be careless, this deep sea beast full of fangs has come. Chapter 859. At this time, the Akagami, red hair, pirates also rushed over. Shanks, are we in the wrong place? The sniper of the Akagami, red hair, pirates, Usopp's father, wondered. The sea in the distance was empty, not to mention an island, there was not even a ghost. Impossible, Impel Down is located in this sea. This kind of thing can't be wrong. Beckman, the vice-captain of the Akagami, red hair, pirates, said loudly, and immediately grabbed the telescope in Jezeb's hand and swept straight towards the sea ahead. How is it possible? Impel Down disappeared. At first, he thought it was because he was old. He rubbed his eyes and looked again. There was no trace of an island within a kilometer or even farther out on the sea. Maybe we are lost, Jezeb guessed, although he thought it was a bit of a fantasy to get lost, the facts explained everything. It should be impossible to get lost. We are not new rookies. Beckman said with a frown. The Akagami, red hair, pirates are not stupid enough to get lost. What about Impel Down? Don't tell me that the prisoners inside rebelled and Impel Down was sunk. Jezeb joked, with a hint of ridicule in his words. As we all know, the prisoners in Impel Down all carry chains or seastone. In their heyday, perhaps these pirates can destroy Impel Down together, but now they are always fish on the chopping board. You all pay attention to this. At this moment, Red Hair Shanks shouted loudly, showing unprecedented caution and even releasing murderous intent. reminding the crew who were in a quarrel. Red Hair, Jezeb and Beckman looked at each other and shouted in unison, but Red Hair Shanks ignored them and stared at the bottom of the sea with his eyes wide open. The two also looked down at the deep sea, not only Jezeb and Beckman, but also other crew members, including Luffy. What are these things? Human buildings. Luffy, who was nervous, couldn't help but stagnate at this moment, looking down at the bottom of the sea in disbelief. He could clearly see countless giant building fragments floating on the bottom of the sea. This is impelled down. Was it really sunk? Jezeb shouted in a daze, his tone was a little messy. This scene, which should belong to a myth, has become a reality. What about Ace? Shanks, you said Ace was locked and impelled down. Luffy panicked and looked around. He couldn't wait to insert his neck into the sea to see what was going on. He could clearly see that Impel Down, or the island where Impel Down was located, was cut in half by the destructive force. It may be publicly executed in the Marine headquarters, red-haired Shank said with an ugly expression. He had reached his maximum speed, but he was still one step too late. Buzzing, Shanks red hairs pirates, Shanks, himself, Shanks, red Shanks, he himself, Shanks, Shanks, himself, Shanks himself. The tremors that came from the bottom of the sea were like a berserk sea king rushing out of a giant whirlpool. Shanks. Go away. Shanks's white Shima shunnies. Splash! The huge shadow on the surface of the water rose out of thin air, and the mysterious battle record revealed his hideous and damaged face. Then several figures came out. They were the prisoners who had been imprisoned and impelled down. It's you. Looking at his old enemy, the scar on the corner of Shank's eyes began to hurt faintly, and his whole person erupted with a piercing killing intent, locking on the opposite person who was as ugly as a pig. He's a metahuman, but he can actually escape from the water. Hey! Don't be surprised, Shanks, I swallowed hundreds of kinds of fruit. This little trick is just a trivial matter for me. The signature smile fell, and Blackbeard floated into his eyes. There are many Marine headquarters. Akiji and Akainu and others may not see it, but Dustless has the Tensegan, and his detection ability is far better than the Byakugan, and he naturally sees the abnormalities under the sea. As many as dozens of pirate ships, even more pirate ships came quietly. It seems that in order to save Ace, Whitebeard really went all out this time. Dustless counted the number of pirates, but it was a little dazzling, like a school of fish on the bottom of the sea. It was difficult to calculate how many there are. Pucci, in the inner harbor, huge waves were set off on the surface of the water, and then all the Whitebeard pirates broke out of the water and appeared on the sea. Not only that, but violent vibrations came from 3 directions. Has this old guy already calculated? These 3 destructive shockwaves were all caused by the captains of the Whitebeard pirates, and the majestic destructive power erupted, trying to tear the entire island apart. Seeing this, the 3 admirals rushed to stop them. Seaquake. Seeing this, Whitebeard's anger flashed with a smile, and he condensed a powerful force in his hands, and the whole sea churned, and an unprecedented wave was formed, and it crushed towards the Marine headquarters. So that's how it is. Is this your plan? Dustless sat down and didn't get up. This big wave was enough to swallow the entire island, and it was obvious that Whitebeard deliberately targeted him. Chapter 860. The overwhelming waves swept across the endless sky, and the whole sky was extremely dark, as if the end of the world, with a cold and desperate atmosphere. Looking at the tsunami that was about to annihilate the Marine headquarters, or the entire Marlin, all the Marines' hearts were covered with a haze that could never be waved away. They never felt that death was so close. The eyes of the Marines were surprisingly consistent as they looked at the Moby Dick's body. The scars all over his body were the direct proof of his battle experience. He was an invincible, peerless existence. This scene. It's an epic scene. Looking at the look of all the Marines, Dustless secretly smacked his lips. Some of the Marines even looked at Whitebeard with worship in their eyes. Will they betray us, my Lord Marshal? For these Marines who are not firm in their stance, Dustless has deep doubts. Maybe Whitebeard will tempt them a little and these loyal Marines will choose to abandon the dark and join the Whitebeard pirates. You still have time to talk nonsense. Sengoku looked at Dustless, who was gloating, and suddenly shouted, "Don't forget, you are now an admiral of the Marine, not a cheerleader of Whitebeard." Dustless waved his hand and motioned Sengoku to calm down. This kind of trivial matter, just leave it to Kazan. Still sitting leisurely in the chair, he looked in the direction of Akiji and saw that he immediately reacted. His whole body jumped up, and cold icicles were thrown along his arm. Ice Age. The moment the insignificant icicles touched the waves, the latter turned into endless ice and solidified on the sea, blooming with beautiful luster, full of artistic sense. Ice said, "You have to believe in your subordinates, Sengoku." Wuchen looked as if he had expected this. He sat on the chair calmly without moving. If he could slack off, he would slack off as much as possible. Whiz, a gust of wind blew over the sky, and then the sky dimmed, turning into a dreamy blue luster, and the ground reflected the shadows of mysterious creatures. That's Whitebeard Pirates 1st Division Captain Marco. Don't let him cross the execution rack. He's going for Fire Fist Ace. Stop him. That's easy for you to say. He can fly in the sky and ignore the attacks of artillery shells. We can't just grow wings and chase after him. Marco, who was flying freely in the sky, attracted the attention of the Navy like a black hole, and they all raised their guns and cannons and fired at him. Bang bang bang, however, the effect was negligible as Marco dodged all of them skillfully. Even if a lucky bullet penetrated him, his body would be restored to its original state with a blue light of recovery. Can this guy come back to life? The Marines below swallowed their saliva and were stunned. The cruel reality made the young Marine stay in place. This was the most ironic thing in the world. Chapter 861. The battle cries and shouts of killing connected the sky, and both sides were red. They belong to the existence of endless antagonism, and when they meet the enemy, they will not be merciful. Just like now, Dustless is crushing the essence of the immortal bird, merciless. Hey! His calm face was a little loose, and he was slightly surprised. Looking at Dustless's line of sight, Marco's open stomach wound was burning with warm blue dreamy flames, and the big hole gradually healed. In just a few breaths of time, it was as perfect as before. The only difference was that Marco was sweating profusely, as if he had suffered a great deal of pain. He fell to the ground powerlessly, gasping for breath. He looked like he was about to die. What an amazing fruit ability. Dustless nodded slightly. This was not the elemental transformation of a Logia ability user, but the rebirth flame of the immortal bird fruit, which repaired the previous wounds one by one. However, it was not difficult to see from Marco's panting body that this was also extremely exhausting. Just now it was the heart, this time, the head was destroyed. Can it be reborn? The moment the cold voice fell, a dazzling flash condensed on the toes, and the pirates and Marines who were fighting near Dustless instinctively closed their eyes. Isn't it a bit too similar? Quietly lighting a cigarette, Kizaru turned his head and looked at the magnificent flash condensed by Dustless's feet. Even with reading glasses, his eyes were strange. Dustless's fruit ability was too similar to his, and even the tricks were the same. Hey! In his ears, the roar gathered and did not dissipate. Looking up, a beam of light swept straight, and the direction locked was Marco's head. A rare sense of death arose spontaneously. Boom, 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 the blazing flame rose into the air, repelling a strong shock wave, and the Marines and pirates who were fighting around were blown away. Under the attack of this heat wave, it was difficult for living creatures to survive. Well? Dustless's brow wrinkled and squeezed together, and he was keenly smelling something wrong. In the flame, he could vaguely see a huge figure standing beside Marco, shining brightly, and the light was as hard as iron. After a long while, the flames gradually extinguished, revealing a towering and sturdy body. Diamond jaws. The diamonds all over his body were clearly visible, protecting the diamond jaws. Marco, who was behind him, was also safe and sound. When the light speed kick corroded Marco, he blocked the impact with his amazing body and saved Marco's life. Diamonds are the hardest thing in the world. This level of attack can't hurt me, Jot said confidently as he patted the shiny diamond. Seeing this, Marco nodded slightly. This exaggerated defense was indeed difficult to break through. Being able to withstand Dustless's attack was the best proof. In this world, there is no such thing as an invincible ability. This world-destroying power had locked onto him. Looking up, it was Whitebeard, whose eyes were about to split open. Severely injuring his two precious sons, there was no doubt that Whitebeard was enraged. He planned to personally take revenge on Dustless. This energy fluctuation that could instantly kill everything was about to destroy Dustless. Caw caw caw, the air violently vibrated. Whitebeard clenched his fist and used all of his strength to punch out. Ken Susanu. Aware of the destructive fluctuations behind him, Dustless's body overflowed with dense chakra, and a large skeleton solidified, protecting Dustless in it. Caw caw caw, the moment the golden localized Kensusanu flashed, it ushered in a devastating blow and turned into raindrops. Before Whitebeard's fist touched Dustless, Kensusanu on his body was crushed by the cracks in the surrounding space. Dustless's whole body was exposed to the impact of Whitebeard. Die for lousy. Seeing that Kensusanu's defense was broken, Whitebeard's eyes were cold, and the sharpness of his fist was more than 3 points. His fist was swallowed by the tempered armament hockey, and he smashed toward Dustless's head, trying to kill him. Caw caw caw, even because the power was too shocking, the ground of the Marine headquarters was torn into an abyss, boundless, almost swallowing the entire island. This was the result of not being hit. It's not difficult to imagine what would happen if a mortal body were to bear this punch. Garp. This old guy Whitebeard seems to be not right. Sengoku's eyes shot a wise luster, and his pupils stared at Whitebeard without moving. He was keenly aware that something was wrong. Whitebeard's strength was far beyond his imagination. Yes. Although I don't know how he did it, he did use some means to regain his former strength. No wonder he dared to go straight to Marlindo. Marine headquarters is in danger this time. Hero Garp also noticed Whitebeard's abnormality. This power that could destroy heaven and earth was close to Whitebeard's peak. The Marines and pirates present stopped fighting and looked at this unprecedented scene with wide eyes. Not only that, but people all over the world who watched this war through the image of Den Den Mushi had their hearts in their throats. Most people thought that the world's youngest admiral in front of them might fall. The whole world abandoned Dustless, only the endless void did not abandon him. Deep in the clouds, in response to Dustless's call, a dark crack with a length of 10 kilometers or even longer was torn by a supreme overbearing momentum, but no one in the world saw it. The white-bearded old man didn't want to kill him, so he deliberately went easy on him. Otherwise, how could the strongest man be defeated? Don't forget, he was once the most powerful pirate who rode side by side with the pirate king. People all over the world who are watching Den Den Mushi are talking about it. Looking at Dustless lying on the rubble, their eyes were completely blinded. Dustless doesn't know what's going on in the outside world. Of course, even if he knows, he doesn't have the leisure to meddle in other people's business. The old man is not only powerful, but his vitality is also surprisingly strong. Ordinary people would have been turned into meat paste by such a heavy attack. Rubbing his sore right shoulder, Dustless was surprised. Whitebeard's state is obviously different from the past. More than 10 years ago, he fought with Whitebeard. At that time, Whitebeard was not as strong as he is now. With the passage of time, Whitebeard not only did not weaken, but now he seems to have become stronger. You said that he was an ordinary person. Whitebeard's face was murderous, and he immediately stood up again. The members of the Whitebeard pirates breathed a sigh of relief. Whitebeard is their backbone. Once Whitebeard steps on the road, these pirates will collapse and be annihilated sooner or later. You can tear the island. Looking at the large cracks that almost swallowed the entire marlin, Dustless suddenly pointed to the sky. And I can tear the sky, deep in the sky, the dark abyss that stretches for several kilometers, or even farther, seems to be able to swallow the whole world. Hearing this, Whitebeard was indifferent, and his face did not change. He has been drifting in the sea for a long life. He has witnessed great winds and waves, and it is impossible for him to be frightened by this battle. It's a close call. Sengoku on the execution platform was relieved. He and Dustless had planned to fight, but they didn't expect Whitebeard to be suppressed by Dustless in the end. Oyaji, Fire Fist Ace's face was full of self-blame and guilt. Looking at the pirate corpses all over the ground, he felt ashamed. If it wasn't for him, none of this would have happened. Looking straight at Whitebeard, seeing that he was still confident, Dustless frowned slightly, and a hint of doubt flashed in his heart. Could it be that this old guy can awaken his devil fruit? Chapter 864. The so-called fruit awakening is actually a higher ability than the devil fruit. After awakening, there is no doubt that the strength will be different from the original. Whitebeard. Even if he can awaken tremor fruit, gura no mi, it is a matter of course. The doubts were quickly relieved. Doflamingo and even some of the prison guards in Impel Down have awakened devil fruit. It would be strange if Whitebeard, who has been at the top for decades, did not awaken devil fruit. Boom boom boom, dense cracks once again appeared in the space around Whitebeard. This time, they were even more numerous than before, as if they were about to swallow the entire sky. The scene was exceptionally horrifying. Caw. In an instant, the entire sky above the Marine headquarters collapsed and was destroyed, like a broken mirror. Bastard, Whitebeard, this damn old guy. All the Marines quickly get down and grab the ground. Fleet Admiral Sengoku looked at the miserable sky, and his face changed greatly. He immediately shouted at the Marines who were fighting below, and his tone was full of panic. What is? Dustless frowned slightly and looked at Sengoku, but his face was full of fear and even fear. Not only him, but Garp beside him was also doing his best. Break for me. Biting his teeth, Whitebeard's powerful roar resounded through the sky, and then the sky was filled with cracks, and the entire Marine headquarters was instantly dark. The sky that was shattered by Whitebeard was dark, and immediately a majestic gravity shot down from it. It turned out to be shattering the entire sky, swallowing the Marine headquarters with the help of the gravity in the universe. No wonder Sengoku is so nervous. Once swallowed, the Marine is equivalent to being wiped out. Dustless nodded slightly and noticed that the trembling island below had strangely left the sea and began to float up. But then again, I didn't expect the tremor fruit to be so extraordinary. Looking up at the black sky, the gravity shot down from the hole was enough to tear everything apart. Many Marines had been crushed, but the pirates were safe. Obviously, Whitebeard deliberately controlled it. Even Dustless felt that his body was shrouded in a majestic gravity, and his arms had begun to distort and deform. To be able to die under this move, you can rest in peace. If it weren't for the fact that I had no other choice, I wouldn't have used such a dangerous move. You should be proud of yourself. Whitebeard sighed. He didn't have enough energy left. Clearly, this move had consumed a lot of his energy. You want to defeat me with such a superficial move? Looks like you haven't woken up yet, Whitebeard. Dustless sneered as he glanced over. Boundless chakra appeared around his body, containing boundless vitality. A huge Buddha statue appeared behind him. His body swept into the air, and the shadow of the Buddha covered the entire Marine headquarters. In an instant, the gravity of the broken black sky became much smaller. Would escape. Immortal technique, true thousand hands, puppet atop. The dense Buddhas were stacked together, forming an unprecedented Buddha. Its area was larger than the Marine headquarters, and its huge shape covered the black hole in the void in an instant. Gulp. Not only Sengoku, Garp and the others, but even Whitebeard himself looked at the giant Buddha floating in the sky in horror. Its body was so huge that Whitebeard suddenly felt that he was as small as a bug. Bang bang bang, as Wu Chen's voice fell, the huge Buddha statue's arms all struck out. The number of arms was dazzling. There were more than 10 million of them, and the power of each fist was beyond imagination. The darkness in the horizon was fragile like a thin film. It collapsed and was annihilated in an instant. The huge Buddha statue also disappeared. The void cleared up again. Is it hard to believe? Don't be surprised, it's actually that simple. Seeing Whitebeard looking at himself like a monster, Dustless said lightly. When he was fighting with Kagaya, what kind of battle had he not seen? The battle between Dustless and Kagaya is a battle based on the whole world. Now Whitebeard can only be said to be a showy and impractical technique, vulgar. It's far from over. His tired eyes erupted with cold light again. Whitebeard waved his left arm, and the void shattered. A door-like crack appeared, and he immediately stepped into it. This is shattering space, achieving the effect of crossing space. There is such an ability. It's really convenient. Dustless sighed, and immediately the space behind him burst, and then Dustless felt a pain in his chest, and the big sword wrapped in domineering aura penetrated his body. Like a ghost, Whitebeard came out silently, his face was ferocious, and the big sword in his hand turned, crushing Dustless's internal organs. Bastard Whitebeard, I must tear you to pieces. Sengoku burst out swearing and glared at Whitebeard. His killing intent soared. His fruit ability was launched, and his whole body was covered with golden light. In broad daylight, this guy killed a Marine admiral. Don't think that I am cruel, this is the price you pay for killing so many of my sons. Pulling out the big sword, Dustless looked at the bloody hole and breathed a sigh of relief. He thought that Dustless would fall, but suddenly he felt a burning pain in his chest. Poochie. Exactly the same as Dustless, Whitebeard's internal organs were burned and destroyed, his whole body was penetrated, and even half of his heart was missing. How is this possible? Looking at the sudden change in shock, Whitebeard, whose eyes were blank, instinctively raised his head. What entered his eyes was Dustless, who was perfect and flawless. His body had recovered to its original size. Nothing is impossible. I have an immortal body in my Jubi body. Red Hair Shanks, one of the Yonko, 4 emperors, Jinbi who was stripped of his Shichibukai title, and Blackbeard, Marshal D. Tich, and the pirates who were imprisoned in the depths of Impel Down. This is bad. Idiot, if you have time to talk nonsense, it's better to retreat quickly, so that you can save your life. Fighting with that group of monsters, 100 lives are not enough for them. The pirates who once resounded all over the world appeared one after another, and some marines with weak will fled. Fighting with this group of monsters is suicide. Plop. However, the group of deserters didn't run for long. The ground under their feet suddenly turned into hot magma, and all of them fell into it without knowing it, and there was no more movement. The fiery red figure was reflected on the ground. It was a kainu who came down with his head bowed, Sakazuki. Those who leave without permission. Kill without mercy. Lowering the brim of his hat, trying to hide the cold light in his eyes, a kainu just left a hoarse sentence and leaned towards Dustless without turning his head. A group of soft marines was forced to fight the pirates again. Falling down like this. Are you deliberately looking down on us? The three admirals all approached Dustless. The person who spoke was Akiji, who was covered in ice. Falling from midair also means that they can't make appropriate movements to fight the enemy. This kind of risky move is tantamount to setting fire to themselves. The three admirals all looked at each other and looked at the figures falling from the sky, and they all used their unique skills. It's a pity to keep them alive. Meteor volcano. The fiery magma fist came out of Akainu's hand, like a meteor shower rising from the ground, and it rushed towards the pirates falling from the sky. Yasukani no Magatama. Ice Age. Kizaru and Akiji looked at each other, and the two of them were unwilling to fall behind, and they used their unique skills. For the first time, the three admirals joined forces to fight the enemy, and the power they exerted was unimaginable, and the colorful light covered the sky. In just a few seconds, 70% of the fallen pirates were killed. As for Dustless, he stood quietly in the same place, in the name of dealing with Whitebeard, but in fact, he was looking at the destroyed marines. Except for some powerful pirates who can escape the joint attack of the three admirals, the others have no choice but to die. Then he sighed. I thought it was a strong appearance to save the world. It turned out to be a group death. You're tuning into the Journey of the Soul YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.